Science involves having an idea, a hypothesis, testing it out. Entrepreneurs have ideas and test them out. How does your scientific training influence your work?
So I think the metaphor that is most often used for entrepreneurship is wrong, and that is discovery. Is invention. We have this idea of the sort of inventor who has a spark of genius and aha, they create a social network or this technology or this or that. But I think the appropriate metaphor is actually discovery. And when you think of it that way, you put it inside of the same construct of the scientific method. Because I'm sure many of you have heard things like lean startup methodology or customer-driven development. In my mind, those are just gussied up ways of saying the scientific method. You have a hypothesis, you run an experiment, and you're able to sort of learn something. Maybe you reject the hypothesis or you prove it, but either way, you've learned something. And I think that's how you chart a path through the unknown. You have to build it up from a set of priors and use experiments to refine your thinking over time. You know, we as a company have a value that's reason from first principles. And we think that is key to being able to be bold and have the sort of courage in our own conviction. It's not because we're just randomly trying things, it's because we've spent a lot of time thinking about it, we've run experiments that have given us some insight, and through that we apply our creativity to come up with this new idea. And I think that is what entrepreneurship and innovation is all about. It's a process of discovery, which actually I think says something else about sort of technology, which is that I really think these ideas that sort of hit it big are independent of their inventors. What I mean by that is, regardless of whether Larry and Sergey started a search engine, we would have had a search engine available to all of us that used the link graph as a primary way of rating content. That was fundamentally the best way to do it, and it was just waiting to be discovered. Similarly, with a social network that is supported by real identities online where genuine communities can emerge, like that was going to happen. The accident of history was that it was Zuck. And I'm not trying to take anything away from these people. It takes an enormous amount of hard work and creativity, but it highlights the fact that these things, I think, are lurking out there, these sort of big ideas waiting to sort of impact a huge swath of the economy or these communities, and it's about discovering them. And I think that also makes it more accessible. I think when you frame it in terms of innovation and like having this brilliant stroke of genius, it's too easy to say, oh, well, I'm not that smart. I'm no genius, I can't do that. But discovery is something we can all sort of practice and learn.
Very well put. Did you ever have a job either in college or before you went to college that taught you a lesson that you still use in business?
So the first job I was paid for, it was in middle school. I was an assistant at a soccer summer camp. And what I didn't know, one of my middle school coaches got me into it, was that the students were all high schoolers.
So you were teaching people or responsible people older than you.
Assisting and helping. I wasn't like the main coach, but it was this a little intimidating thing for these high schoolers to sort of be like who you're sort of telling where to go, but realizing that you can kind of fake it and people will listen to you. You know, if you sort of have the sort of audacity to say, oh yeah, we got to go over there now, or no, stop doing that, we got to do this, people will kind of listen. And it was a very helpful thing to learn early on.
I'll try faking that as dean,
Yeah.
see if it works. On class day in 2007 when you graduated, what did you think you would be doing 10 years later?
So, despite my mother's pleas for not doing this, I actually took a semester off from college. So first semester junior year, I took off to work with this guy who I'd met because we had a shared passion. Like many 20-year-olds, we got into Social Security reform, pension reform. And I wrote 2 op-eds for the spec about it. I met him, and he actually had started a student advocacy group that was involved in the Social Security debate. And I don't really know why I worked so hard to convince my parents to let me do this, but I was just excited to go and try and make a change and sort of do it. Now, if you guys all know how that one ended up, you know that we had zero impact on the national debate. But it was there that we realized how fun it was to build something out of nothing and rally people around a shared dream. And so we decided to do it again. So I would have said, or I would have hoped, rather, that I would be working with, this guy, Jonathan, my co-founder, starting some company. We ended up actually living together for a summer because I graduated in December of '07 to make up for that semester. I had sort of one last internship summer, and we lived together, and we spent that summer sort of coming up with ideas and trying to sort of think of something. And Thumbtack was the second idea we came up with, but the vastly better one, and we're still at it.
So I've said, there Columbia College students here know that I've said to them many times that entrepreneurship is just an idea meets an opportunity and it's turned into an enterprise. Is that actually a good description?
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that it is, you don't even need to have an idea up front. Like we really didn't. And this, I think, gets a little bit shortchanged as a path for building a business. We literally said to ourselves, what is the biggest problem we think we can solve with technology? And secondly, what's a problem that we think will inevitably be solved? We went hunting for that problem, but we were excited to sort of find something and work on it. So sometimes you don't even need that. And look, that path has some notable outcomes, like Amazon was started that way. Microsoft was started that way. Sometimes you figure that there's like, hey, there's got to be some opportunity out here. Like, we're just going to go chip away at it and find something to do. So I think it really just takes a desire. And just to be very crisp about this, entrepreneurship does not mean building a tech company, does not mean raising venture capital. You know, we as a platform support hundreds of thousands of small businesses around the country, and I consider them all entrepreneurs as well. It's simply about making something out of nothing. And that can come in all sorts of shapes and sizes.
So it's really discovery is really.
I think so.
Much more, the ideas and opportunities are to be discovered. You just have to be looking. Yep. So we need discoverers as well. So.